Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast live. We are live every Thursday on Facebook and on Instagram at alter.health. And this podcast, as always, is your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and my health and Susanna's health and the health of our planet, of course. And I'm Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And I'm Dr. Susanna Alter.
And we're excited to dive into something that we typically teeter around in almost every one of these live podcast episodes. And that's the topic of mind, of wisdom, of that healing power that is always moving through us. That is definitely a theme in our lives, in our practice, on the podcast. But we're really kind of tackling it head on in today's episode. But before we dive in, we wanted to make a quick little plug for our Empowered Self Healers Facebook group. We are live in that group right now, and that group is full of like-minded, like-hearted, self-healing individuals that we're so grateful to be a part of. And if you are a self-healer, then you might want to consider joining the Empowered Self Healers Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/alterhealth.
Yeah, so let's shift into talking about this yummy, juicy topic that I love talking about, the wisdom of mind and body. And like Ben said, in this episode, we really intend to just kind of steep in it to really, what I would encourage all of you listeners out there in doing is really, in this episode, listen with your heart, not so much with your intellect, because when we get too deep into intellectual thinking, that's when all sorts of questions and, all sorts of thoughts come up, and it can really take us away from that heart-centered listening, which is where we really, really absorb information on a deeper level.
It's a really good point and great place to start. We live in this world where intellect and thinking and being a brainiac and problem solving with our minds is so revered and praised, starting really from babies. And we're being taught things with our intellect, how to do things, how to think, how to behave, how to function. And then, of course, in school, studying for tests, learning things, putting our brains to work. And, we're not suggesting that the brain is a bad thing, but we just need to recognize the brain as what it is just a tool. It's not the master. And when it is the master, when it becomes the master, when we live in the illusion or delusion that the brain is the master, then we ultimately are disempowered and not fully aligned with the potential that lies beyond the intellect. And that being said, we do live in this world, where we're talking, where we're using words, where we're engaging mind to mind. And, that's just the reality of the world that we live in, but we have to recognize, and what we're pointing out is that there is this formlessness, this more feeling-based world that we experience more deeply. And we do have the opportunity, even amidst intellectual conversations like this one or any other conversation, to tap into the feeling place and to really resonate with the information rather than intellectualize and process the information between our ears, but resonate with, like, as meaning in each and every one of our cells in our body.
Yeah, so what we're going to be talking about today, we're really going to do our best to point you to what we're trying to talk about today, because what we're talking about today can't fully really be explained or described with words, because its formless nature can't be captured in the world of form. But we're going to do our best to really point you to that feeling, to that wisdom with our words. And yeah, we just invite you all to open up to receive something new.
Mm.
And so what we often talk about is this innate self-healing power of the body. You know, we always give the example, when you fall and you skin your knee, your body, it seems like it just magically knows how to close that wound. It has an innate intelligence. We don't really need to do anything actively to help the body heal that wound. And the same thing, that same self-healing power, actually extends into our mental realm as well. And sometimes we call this our mental immune system. You know, like, we can have really stormy days where we find ourselves in really, really bad moods. We're bogged down in lots of critical thinking, insecure thinking, whatever kind of negative thinking is going on. But automatically, naturally, without us even really doing anything or going in and fixing our mental patterns, we will naturally and reliably always come back to center, to our innate place of peace and well-being psychologically.
It's so interesting how, in this empowered self-healers group and in the world, really, I'm becoming more and more aware of people who really are realizing, becoming aware that so much of their limitation with their health and their life and their well-being is really lying in that realm of mind and emotions and stress. Stress is kind of a broad term that can be used for, what I'm realizing, like how I define stress now, is really anything that isn't peaceful is to some degree stressful. It's kind of like, if we are to separate things in this binary way, it's either stress or peace. And so many people, I'm becoming aware that so many people are experiencing high levels of stress or lack of peace in their life, and realizing that these are contributing factors for their ill health or their symptoms or conditions, whatever they're experiencing physically. And it's so interesting to me because I think we all have the human tendency to experience stress or dis-ease on the mental or emotional realm, to feel kind of upset or triggered or irritated, and then have this immediate desire to fix it and to get away from it and to remedy it so that we can feel better. It's just such a natural program that humans have. Feel upset, feel dis-ease, feel stress, and then fix the stress, manage the stress, deal with the stress, process the emotions. That is such a normal, natural human tendency. And yet, oftentimes, what that can do is lead us into what we talk about often as kind of this thought storm or stress sandwich, where we're just like layering upon layer upon layer of stressful thoughts and judgments. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. Oh, I feel upset. I feel triggered. I feel this. I feel that. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling that. Oh, I can't believe I'm judging myself. Oh, there's judgments upon judgments and thoughts upon thoughts. And then we experience kind of the end result of that, which is just extreme tension and, physiologic stress, dis-ease on all levels of our being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the title of today's episode is Leveraging the Wisdom of Mind and Body. And we were giving some thought to what that first word of the title was going to be, because we didn't really like harness, we didn't really like optimize or maximize, because so many of those words, they
imply doing
they
or
imply
action.
doing. And what we're talking about today is really just opening up to understanding and falling into what is already innately you and yours.
We could have used the word understanding instead of leveraging.
We could have. I guess we also wanted it to be catchy so that it caught your eye.
Yeah, that's what's most important, right?
But really, how to leverage the wisdom of mind and body is to simply understand and to simply do less and to simply fall into or drop into your innate well-being and your innate wisdom and power.
Yeah, we're called human beings for a reason, I think. And we all, once again, have that tendency to do, to fix, to make right, to work, to struggle. And it's just human tendency. But what we're really talking about in this episode, and I think as we're kind of making our way into really the leveraging, that understanding the wisdom of the mind and the body, uh, we're really pointing less towards doing and more towards being, more towards just understanding, accepting, flowing with, taking, decomposing or not, like taking apart that stress sandwich and taking apart that stress storm and just letting all of the components, which are thoughts, to just dissolve. Because really what we're talking about in this conversation about leveraging the wisdom of mind and body, the manifestation of mind is thought, just like the manifestation of body is, cellular energy. It's like that's always happening. It's just built into our mind to experience thought. And we don't have to do anything with those thoughts. And the ironic thing and paradoxical thing is that when we start to do stuff with the thoughts, then we create, with our intellect, we create kind of that log jam effect, and then thoughts build up and we get a sandwich going, and then we judge it, and then we're left once again in that kind of experience of stress, experience of upset and dis-ease.
Yeah. So I think something that would be helpful to really kind of marinate in this idea of innate wisdom and innate health would be to talk about a metaphor that I recently heard that I just really loved. And that was the metaphor that our bodies are pretty much like plants. So if we look at a tree or a bush outside, that tree and bush, they just, they're naturally programmed to thrive. If they're given all of the building blocks and nutrients that they need to thrive, they will. It's as simple as that. And so that is because they are all connected with the same source of divine mind, divine wisdom, divine intelligence. And so we can look at those plants and say, same thing with our bodies. Our bodies are just like those plants out there. If they are given all of the resources and nutrients they need to thrive, they will thrive. And often what we find is that when they're not thriving, there's some kind of obstacle in the way of the body just, naturally doing what it does best, which is always moving towards that state of optimal health.
It's a really interesting metaphor because I'm thinking about it as kind of a gardener wannabe, a green thumb wannabe. I'm trying to understand how to take care of plants, and I go out into nature. I would take a forest walk and see this incredible biodiversity and these thriving plants. I'm like, who's in here gardening and like weeding and taking care of this earth? And why can't I plant seeds and grow plants with such resilience and vitality as I see and experience in nature? And it's just so interesting how when we try and do and micromanage our gardens and try to make everything right, using our intellect, it's really challenging, if not impossible. I mean, of course, there is the science of biodynamic farming and, getting in that rhythm of nature, understanding that rhythm of nature. But the interesting thing to me, back to that metaphor, is the style of gardening and farming which is most abundant and which yields the most abundant and healthy foods and plants is a biodynamic style, a style of gardening and farming that understands the inherent and innate balance and harmony that exists always naturally, and just kind of taps into that and leverages that, which is always present.
Yeah.
And there's less weeding, there's less micromanaging. I'm not an expert, of course, but my understanding is once that is fully understood, which I think is a process of understanding more and more deeply, just like what we're talking about here today. But the more we understand on that physical gardening metaphor, the less we actually have to do, and the more we allow nature to be its own gardener, and we just experience the fruits and the harvest and the bounty that is always available.
Exactly. It's beautiful. And so like how this metaphor of, the plants naturally thriving extends to human bodies, it also, like we said before, it extends to our mental level as well. What we're talking about, this wisdom, this intelligence, this just like formless energy that courses through everything, it's all the same thing, and it's all always pointing everything towards peace and towards health. And so what that looks like in our mental realm is that, no matter what diagnosis you have, no matter what your mental tendencies are, you are innately well mentally all the time at your core. Like how the default mode of those plants is just to thrive, the default mode of your mind is well-being and peace and connectedness and joy, and whatever words you want to use to elicit that feeling of just like, gosh, being one with everything else around you. And in this state, because this really is, like, I want to really, really hit home that this is your default state. And just like how your body, sometimes obstacles get in the way of your body naturally thriving, obstacles get in the way of you really being connected with that innate wellness inside. And those obstacles in the mental realm are those thoughts that we choose to really cling on to and take seriously.
Yeah, in our event that we're hosting in the Empowered Self Healers group last night, there was someone who was talking about an obstacle in the realm of mind to health, and put it really beautifully, just in that, it's believing in lies, believing in anything that isn't the truth. And we do have that tendency. I mean, every thought that we hang on to is a lie. We're making it mean something rather than acknowledging it for what it is, and just pointing out quickly, like, what are thoughts? For those of you who maybe haven't been exposed or introduced to this level of conversation with us, we talk about thoughts as being simply formless energy. They have no substance. So when we believe in them and make them mean something, we're automatically creating, to some extent, a lie. We're fabricating a story. And that's not to say that's part of the human condition. That's part of the human tendency. But, is that story one that is adding vitality and value and well-being to your human experience, or is it sabotaging and drawing and draining energy from you? Yeah, It's
So,
hard to talk about.
it is. And I would say for listeners out there, if any of you are finding yourself, getting a little bit in your thoughts, like what is Dr. Ben talking
Yeah,
about? Wait,
I
what?
just had a thought moment. Brought us into our intellect, maybe.
Yeah, so if any of you out there are now experiencing yourselves in your intellect, I would just invite you to practice just dropping that and dropping into that innate wellness that is always there. It's always available to you. All you really need to do is just drop whatever thoughts are in your head, if only for a split second. You can drop into that well-being that is always there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and once again, not an easy thing to do, and not a normal thing to do. It's not socially normal to drop things and let things go. It's more, we more have a social tendency to fix things, to change things, to be activists, to make right.
So I'm going to jump in again and again take us out of the intellect that you keep bringing us into, Ben.
Well, I think it's, yeah, I'm just feeling maybe what other people are feeling or thinking.
Yeah. But so just in the last few minutes, I do want to I want to encourage all of our listeners to just kind of to drop currently what any kind of thoughts are in their head, and to just to observe what comes to mind when I ask you to remember a time when you felt a feeling of connectedness and peace and well-being, and maybe you also felt in that moment that all the answers that you had been kind of seeking just came to you. You had a clear insight of what you had to do. Just see what comes to mind, because we all have these experiences. Sometimes they seem very profound, other times they are more mundane, and gosh, I mean, we have them several times throughout the day. And
every moment, we just don't know it.
It's true. And hopefully some of you out there can remember that feeling. And this is what we're talking about, is really that feeling. And it's nothing more than that. And we can try to, like we said, try to explain what this feeling is with words, but you know it when you feel it.
Yeah, feeling plugged in, connected in the flow. We've got names and ways to describe and point at it, and it's I find it really fascinating how it is just a natural byproduct, very dependable, always there, a natural byproduct of being present, being fully present with the nature of what is, and not being hung up on past, present, past or future. But so many spiritual teachers and books and amazing people have pointed in all sorts of wonderful ways to the power of presence and the power of now, and all that which is. Yeah. So nothing revelationary in terms of the content of what we're discussing here when we're talking about leveraging the wisdom of mind and body. But once again, it does sort of kind of, maybe depending on the world that you're living in that moment, but not this moment, in that moment, maybe it does kind of fly in the face of what we should be doing, quote unquote. We should be doing. And we're pointing you to maybe consider being And from that place of pure presence, trusting that the action, that the behavior, that the doing will flow.
Yeah, and what we find is so paradoxical in our own experiences, and also what our clients and patients have told us, is that the less they actively do and the more they just open up to the being, and the more they just tap in with their innate, wisdom and the unknowing, the not knowing of what's going to come, the better they feel, the more peaceful they feel, the better their health becomes. And so, yeah, it sounds super paradoxical that here we are as doctors supporting people in, not doing so much.
Yeah. Well, the important thing to, reconnect once again is that what we're talking about here is essentially mind. And we've got this body, and mind, the energy of mind, the wisdom of mind is very much programmed in each and every cell of the body. And so when we experience peace of mind, we experience peace of body. When we experience peace of body, we experience optimal flow of vitality. And we also, in the realm of thought, we have the clarity to be moved and take action in ways that are self-honoring, self-nurturing, and promote further our health and vitality and our longevity. And it's not something that we can necessarily get from a book or a pill or a protocol. That being said, maybe in that peaceful, pure presence, there is insight, inspiration, direct knowing to take action and go to a website and read a research study on this topic and do some intellectualizing. It's not separate. We're not talking about just be and not do. We're talking about being first and being primarily, and then from that place, once again, allowing the flow of that innate wisdom programmed in all of life to move you in the direction that you are meant to move. Mm-hmm. And that is effortless, that is easy, that is graceful, that promotes health.
Yes. And so, wrapping up today's session, we just want to invite you all to consider an offering that we're really, really excited about. And that is our very first Medicinal Living Mastermind. And so what we're doing is we are getting a group of people who are feeling inspired.
Yeah, if it's in the flow.
If it's in the flow. We're all taking the Medicinal Living course together and having weekly meetings where we discuss this content. And for those of you who have never heard of our Medicinal Living course, I'll let Ben describe it a little bit.
All right, cool. I'll do it real quick. It's the Medicinal Living course is a 6-week online course that guides you through the essential medicines that your life depend on, from nutrition to other aspects of lifestyle, as well as all the things concerning your thoughts and relationships and connection with your purpose. So these are really the most important things that have to do with creating a strong foundation of health. And the course is available as a self-guided journey, but we've received feedback that it would be really nice to have a little group of people and have, really in-depth conversations and discussions pertaining to each one of the 6 weekly modules. So we've gone ahead and designed the Medicinal Living Mastermind, which includes access to the course and guidance in those in-depth conversations that we'll have each week, as well as we decided in this first round, at least, to offer a couple of bonus one-on-one coaching strategy sessions.
with us.
With either one of us.
Yeah, and just to extend this to our metaphor that we were talking about earlier today, really the information that's covered in this course in Mastermind is it's all about creating that optimal environment so that your body can naturally thrive. And it's about taking away all of those obstacles that get in the way of the body from thriving. So the conversations they're going to be deep. They're going to be, talking about all of this good, juicy stuff.
And if you'd like to learn more, head on over to www.altered.health/mastermind.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also, just know that we've got these, if you're listening on iTunes or wherever you're listening, we invite you to subscribe and to rate and to leave a comment or review. We're also on YouTube, and our live conversations do happen, like I said, each Thursday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time on Instagram and Facebook. So tune in and connect, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye for now.